Hi, my name's Jeff, and what I'm going to do today is walk you through the process to be able to install new seats in your Mini Cooper. Mine's a 2011. It would be very similar for model years around this date. What I did is I purchased some upgraded seats off eBay, and what I want to do is put these into the car and just upgrade my interior from the standard stock interior that's in there. So the first step is to really go in and make sure you have the right tools. Okay, really the only special tool you'll need is a StarPoint bit set, and you need the T40 to be able to work on these seats. I went to Harbor Freight, bought an inexpensive set for my drive set. It worked perfectly, but don't get started unless you make sure you have this. Other than that, all the other tools should be standard things that you would have. Okay, now I'm in the inside of the driver's side of the car, and what I want to do is show you the 4 hex bolts that are holding the seats in. Basically use that star bolt to remove those. There's 2 in the back, 2 in the front. The star bolt just fits in very easily in here, and you can just unloosen it. It was not hard to unloosen. Matter of fact, came out very easily. Didn't have to use a lot of torque or anything else on it. So there's 4 of these, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. What I did was tighten these, unloosen these, and I did it on all 4 seats first before I did anything else, just to make sure I wasn't going to have a problem getting these out and that they weren't torqued too much that I wasn't going to be able to do anything. So I've gone ahead and done that on all 4 of the bolts on both my seats at this point. Okay, so now that I have the seats loosened up, I know they're going to come out okay, there's no problem. What I'm going to do is disconnect the battery from the car, and the reason I'm doing this is because there's a seatbelt sensor and other electronics that go to the seats. And when I unplug that, if the battery is connected, it'll create a fault. And it'll create a sensor fault that only the Mini dealer can reset. So by unplugging the battery, I'm hoping to avoid that problem and getting a sensor reset or any kind of electronic errors. Now, unplugging the battery, you may lose some of the presets you have on other things, but I think that's a small price to pay other than trying to have to go to the Mini dealer and paying them $150 to recheck my airbags and have some problems with it. So what I'm going to do right now is disconnect the battery terminals. Okay, I'm here at the battery terminal. I've propped open the lid with a screwdriver so that I can get access to it. I've taken a 10 millimeter wrench, and the bolts here I've loosened up so I can now pry off the battery terminals. What I'm going to do is take off the negative terminal first, followed by the positive, which from what I've read and understand is the proper procedure when disconnecting a battery. Okay, you can see now I've disconnected the terminals from the battery. I've actually moved the negative terminal way out of the way and put some newspaper under the positive terminal just to make sure it doesn't slip back and actually connect to the terminals accidentally while I'm working on it. I also read online that it's best to wait about 30 minutes after you disconnect the battery just to make sure that if there's any capacitive charges or anything else with any of the equipment or the airbags, those have been dissipated and there is no charges anywhere in the system. So what I'm going to do is before I disconnect the airbag connectors, I'm going to go ahead and finish unbolting all the bolts that I showed you earlier and get the seats totally ready to be taken out, and then disconnect it, which I'll show you in the next part of the video. Okay, now that you have your seats bolts removed and stuff, it's time to take an attention to the connector system that's used to hook up the electronics to the seat, like the seat belts, the airbag sensors, the heated seats, other things like that. This is the connector system. There's 2 modules. This module stays with the seat. This is the module where you actually connect the seat to the car. And basically it connects right here under this connector. There is a lock with the connector and you have to release that before you can unplug it. So what I'm going to do is actually stick a screwdriver down right here, and you can see that I can get under this lock and then that pulls it out. And once you do that, then you can actually pull the connector from the car to the seat and be able to remove the seat no problem. I'm showing you here on this seat just because it's easier to show you in a seat that's out, but I'm going to repeat that process underneath the car. Also, looking at these connectors, different years have different connectors depending upon the year and the model and so on, and I'm not clear on when the connectors have changed and so on, but I did know when I was looking at some seats from like a 2009-8 car, they were slightly different and wouldn't work. So if you're purchasing seats, make sure that your connectors will work properly with your car. Okay, what I wanted to do is just show you a view of the seat removed from the car. You can see here's that connector I was talking about. It easily came out when I moved that connector. Matter of fact, there was a lever based into it, so when I pulled it out with the screwdriver like I showed in the prior video, it just pulled this right out. I didn't even have to pull on it. It's actually a very nice arrangement. So now what I have to do is put the new seat in and line it up with these 4 holes properly. I've also kept the screws that I was using when I put them out, and I put them with the bolt just to make sure that I was putting the same bolt in the same hole, just to make sure there'd be no alignment issues or other things like that. You know, it's probably not a necessary precaution, but I just thought it'd be easier to do that. I also vacuumed this out and cleaned it up a little bit while I had the seat out. So what I'm going to do now is put the seat in and actually bolt it in. I took the headrests off the seats just to make it a little easier to put them in. Okay, so I got the new seat in the car. I'm ready to try to hook up the connector. What you want to do is make sure that there's a curved edge to this. You can sort of see one is slanted a little bit. You want to make sure that the slanted edge plugs into closest to the black connector there. I'm going to have to move the seat down a little bit to be able to do that. But you want to make sure it goes in this direction. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to line up the bolts and put the seat back in. So basically, you want to make sure you install it so that that's going against the black connector. Okay, I got the car seats in. They've been installed. You can see them here. I've got the battery reconnected and so on else like that. I did find out one tip when I was installing the seats, and what I figured out was that it's actually very important to install the back screws first and push the rails all the way back, install those in first. That allows you to line things up better when you move it to the front seats and install those. So I had no problem with that. Everything's been really good. I hooked the battery back up. The only thing that is a disappointment here is that disconnecting the battery did not cause the airbag fault not to trigger. So now I don't know if that's because the airbags are bad in the seats because they're triggering the fault, or whether it was just because they were installed and it was going to trigger the fault regardless of whether I unplugged the battery or not. So I'm going to have to go out to the Mini dealer and figure out what happened here. Okay, here's an update on what was causing the airbag sensor light to go off when I installed the seats after I connected the battery up. I went to a local car dealer. He said he'd reset the light for me for $50, but when he went to reset it, he was actually getting an error code for the driver's side seat. It was the seatbelt tensioner was defective. And if you think about it, if the seat was involved in an accident, probably would be stressing the seatbelt tensioner, potentially broke it. So when you purchase seats off eBay, be cognizant that the seats as they are may not pass or may have defects that you can't see with regard to the airbag and it going off. What I'm going to have to do is actually replace the tensioner, so I'll do that as part of a separate video. But the reality is then, if you follow the procedures that I showed you earlier, you can install new seats. They can work very well. Depending upon if you have any errors associated with the seats that you bought, then you may get the error code that I have, and look for a future video to talk about how to repair that. So thanks for watching my video, and good luck with your project.